Brian Urlacher, longtime great for the Chicago Bears. Here we are, episode 54 of the Trash Talk Business Podcast, where it's all about growing, scaling, building your business in this junk removal dream that we call the waste industry. I'm Andy Weins from the great state of Wisconsin. 71 degrees out, early April, no big deal. Be jealous. Casey Bubba Lawrence from the great state of Texas, Fort Worth-ish, lean on Dallas. Casey, what are we doing today?
Man, we're rocking and rolling, man. It's 75 here. We're having a great weather.
Great weather from your mobile
awesome.
Mobile office today, I see.
Yeah, I'm in the truck today. So, hey, you know what? Shout out to everybody in the truck right now listening. But yeah, we have a great guest today. I will be honest, I don't know where he's from, and I'm not sure of his business, but we're about to find all that out right now. So without any further ado, take it away. We're going to go with Jahmarqoe Metcalf. Tell us about yourself. What do you do? Why do you do it? And where are you from?
So my name is Jahmarqoe Metcalf. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I own a commercial cleaning business called T&J Commercial Cleaning. I've been cleaning since I was 13 years old from my family cleaning company. And I started my own business about 4 months ago, and it's doing pretty good.
Oh, yeah. So since 13, you've been doing this in the family business since you were 13.
Yeah, I'm 22
I gotta ask you,
now.
how old are you now?
22.
22.
Yeah.
See,
that's awesome. So you got some experience.
Yeah.
Well, and this is here's the beautiful thing. It's like for people. One of the reasons I wanted Jahmarqoe on the call today is I met him like 2 months ago, not even a month ago, about a month ago, at a networking event, and we got talking. And I'm like, hey, what do you do? What are your minimums? Like just really broken down Barney style, quick, fast, in a hurry. And he's been cleaning our building since, and I referred him to a couple of our customers. And it gives me faith and a hope in the younger generation of entrepreneurs, because often what I see on a lot of these Facebook groups is people talking and complaining, and they're not out there. And so I see in Jahmarqoe, it's like, we do junk removal. A lot of people are like, hey, why would you do that? It's a shit job, or it's a dirty job. It's a job nobody else wants. And then Jahmarqoe's the same thing. It's like, yeah, he cleans commercial properties. And it's like, yeah, but you give a shit about what you do and how you do it. You build in your craft. Like when you're good at what you do and you enjoy doing it, doesn't really matter what you do, right? I'd rather take someone, in a blue collar field that loves what they do and they're good at it versus someone in a white collar field that's fucking going to work every day and spinning their wheels and no clue and no love, no desire to grow. It's like that job, that job, right? Some people, I was talking to my counselor about that earlier today. It's like some people love the safety and security of a job, and others of us, man, I'm unemployable. Like I don't want to have a job. I have no desire to ever work again.
Here's something interesting. I found myself talking about at lunch today with the seller of the property, but we were talking. We have a very similar background, and his main goal. He has kids, right? He has a family now. He's older than me, but he said his main goal was he wanted to make sure his kids were never having to experience what we had to. And he goes, but now as he goes further into business, he's starting to realize, what does that mean for them? Because we have this drive because of our upbringing, right? Like I was raised by a single dad, very, very poor. He was in construction, but it got to the point where now I'm like, look, I know what that's like. I don't want that for my kids. So now we have this drive to propel us into that future of business. And for me, it's like, well, why do I want someone else to be in charge of my future? I'd rather it be me. Mm-hmm. So what does that mean for our kids, right? The generation behind us. Is it actually bad for them? Are we sheltering them from something that's potentially could build their future into success?
Well, I mean, Jahmarqoe,
because that drive
product
is what stems.
Yeah, so Jahmarqoe, you're a product of that. You're, said you raised in the family business. Was the family business cleaning?
Yeah, it was actually my grandparents' family business. So it was my mom, my auntie, my older cousins, and me. And so it was, family business. It was they had it before I was born. So I was just brought right up into it. If you was to ask me when I was 13 if I wanted to have my own cleaning company, I would tell you no. It just happened. It's something I was good at. I was late. I was up at night trying to figure out what business I wanted to start, and cleaning business, it was just scalable, and I had experience. So I just took action.
Well, it's in your blood now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Andy has a similar, he grew up in this industry because of his dad. I mean, he was used to being around, being exposed to the elements. And that's the cool thing is it's something that no matter what comes around in life, I think you're always going to go back to what got you in your situation in the first place, right? That's the trash business, the cleaning business, whatever.
Well, it's that old adage, don't forget where you came from. And, often that don't forget where you came from is more of a humility saying. It's also a baseline, right? I wrote a book and I'm starting to do some media, in preparation for the book launch. And it gives me an opportunity to reflect back on how I got where I'm at today. And one of the questions I was answering for this newspaper or magazine, I can't recall, was how you got where you're at today. How were your parents influential on you? And it's like, you stop and reflect on those times and you're like, oh yeah, this is what I learned along the way. I was looking at old pictures of me when I was 4 or 5 years old. I'm sitting on my dad's lap in a skid steer and we're tearing up the driveway at our old house on the north side of Milwaukee. And it's like, oh yeah, that's how I grew up, right? Like 105th and Villard, like that's where I grew up. That's the house. Like I drive by the neighborhood all the time. My shop is only 4 minutes from the house that I grew up in on the north side. And it's like, all right then, like you just, and it's like, yeah, I haven't come that far, and yet I've come a long way, right? From sitting on my dad's lap to owning a company and having a podcast and speaking and writing a book. And that's where it started. Earlier today, our scrap dumpster was getting swapped out, and we had brought a trailer back from a job site that we have to dismantle, and the trailer's in the way. And the guy, as soon as I see it, I was like, oh yeah, shit, that trailer's not in the right spot. So it's like I hop on the forklift, I move the trailer, make sure he's straight, and it's like, all right, like, there's other business owners that might be apprehensive to get on equipment or don't even own the equipment in the first place. It's like, well, I grew up on equipment, so that's what makes sense to me. And having that generational feel, because Jahmarqoe, your dad, it's you and your dad, right? Is that the T&J, or because I know your dad works with you? Is that what it's all about?
No, well, the T&J it stands for Tara and Jahmarqoe. So Tara is my mom.
Okay.
So my goal, like one of my biggest goals in life is for my mom to not have to work no more. So when I was figuring out a name, it was inspired, with her, and I just wanted Tara and T&J, and it works very good together. So that's where the T came from. But my dad does help me. But that T and the J is because I wanted my mom to have something that she can be a part of with me. She's my motivation. So that's where the T&J came.
That's interesting, actually. When we bought our building, one of the reasons I bought it and I hired my mom right away was because she had shit jobs that she hated. And I heard him complaining for all these years about the jobs. My dad never complained about his job because he owned a business. So it's like he got to choose what he did every day, And my mom would complain. And I remember, to your point, one of my big wins was when my mom could quit her bullshit job and come work for me and run the building. Like that was huge. Like, and now she still comes around the building every now and then because now she's retired. And it's like for those years she did what she wanted to do, not what she had to do. There was certain things. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows.
She ran the building
100%.
Like that was her shit.
Oh yeah, I was like, she said all the time, like my boys own the building and I'm in charge, and she wasn't lying.
Yeah.
Even now, it's like she came in the building last week, and she's like, she told, because we got a couple new guys, or newer leaders in the organization, and she's like, I can already tell you what you're doing wrong. I can already tell you what's out of place. She goes, I can tell you who got back last night based on how the building was locked up or not locked up or what was left behind. She goes, I know it all. She goes, ain't nothing you can pull, and she was 90% accurate on her quick assessments, right? She was like, now Jahmarqoe, now that Jahmarqoe cleans my building, she's got less to yell at me about. Because she'd come by all the time and just yell at me for always having dishes in this thing. Because that's because I ate lunch today and I just leave dishes. I leave dishes. I'm the standard bachelor. I leave dishes in the sink until I'm out of dishes. Like I go until I got the last cup, and then I'll steal like one of Penny's cups. I'll steal a Penny cup or two before I'm like, all right, should probably do some dishes. Now I got Jahmarqoe coming by the shop twice a week, and he cleans up all the messes, which is awesome.
Yeah. So So expand on that. Like, what all do you offer? Like, what kind of cleaning services? Is it strictly commercial?
Yeah, like pretty much commercial. So like offices, gyms. I want to get into schools, but retail stores, and then I'm looking to get into Airbnb also. But mainly right now, just offices and gyms and like retail stores. As far as the services, pretty much, like kind of what I do for Andy. So floor mopping, sweeping, dusting, just maintenance, surface cleaning and things like that.
How big is your team?
About 4 people. So it depends on the building. So like this building, I just bring my dad, but then I just finished the project of stripping and waxing, and I brought 3 other people with me. So it really depends on how big the project is or how big the square is, things like that. Yeah.
So I'm gonna brag on him for a second. I met him at a networking event. He showed up because he knows Fabio, the guy that does all my LinkedIn content. And so he showed up because Fabio gets, I always encourage him to bring a guest or two. So he showed up and he started talking about what he does. I'm like, all right, bet. I was like, well, what do you charge? Like, he's like 50 cents a square foot. I'm like, well, what's your frequency? It's like twice a week for office. Like, I said, what's your minimum? He's like, I need 1,000 square feet. Like, he knew his numbers. Like, if anyone listening to this podcast knows, I know my numbers, right? One of the things that drives me nuts is when I get in these junk removal groups or when people reach out to me and they're like, hey, I want to scale my business. I'm like, cool. How do you charge? Like, oh, I just kind of bid every job and I just kind of figure it out. I'm like, no, you got to know your industry well enough to know your numbers. So he told me his numbers. I'm like, all right, bet. And then he shows up day one with a contract in hand for year-long cleaning services. And I'm not used to that. I'm like, man, like you keep cleaning until we decide it ain't good for either one of us. Right. But I'm like, no, he's like, here's my contract. So when I talked a little bit about the contract, what were the pros and cons? I'm like, I don't like paper, right? Because I'm an environmentalist. So I was like, send me a DocuSign, right? And we talked it through. So it was all good. So it's like, to see that from a business that's less than 6 months old, I said, hey, this is my prices. Here's my contract. You can sign it or not. And I'm not interested in cleaning once or twice. I want this to be a year-long thing. I'm like, shit, like that's the kind of stuff that I learned because I've had customers in the past where it's like, they'll be, oh man, I need you to do this all the time. And then you do it. And then like 2 months later, like, all right, cool. I found someone else to do it. And you're like, oh shit, so good on him for that. The other thing, and this is a customer service thing. And him and I haven't talked about this, but so about 4 weeks ago, he cleaned and he cleaned on a Monday. And I recall it was Monday because on Sunday, and he don't even know this. So I was saving the story until we had this conversation on the podcast. He had broke a coffee cup of mine on Monday, right? Which is normally not a big deal, right? It's a fucking coffee cup. But he didn't even know this. That coffee cup was from the restaurant that I met Tommy at. And Tommy's one of our employees who passed away like 6 weeks ago. And I specifically had my cup of coffee Sunday morning before his memorial service out of that cup. And the cup had already been cracked. It was already cracked. I knew that. Right. And then he broke it on Monday when he was cleaning. And then he like texted me. He was like, hey, man, my bad. Like, I broke it. He even like went so as far as like, I'll see if I got to talk to my insurance company. I'm like, it's a coffee cup. Right. And then I was like, whatever. I didn't even think about it. Right. And then next day, this was like late at night, he texted me. Next day, he's like, man, I felt bad. So he went to the restaurant I got the coffee cup from and went and bought me a new coffee cup. Right. Took a picture of it. And it's like, this is right. This is the lesson in that. It's like, no matter what happens, and this happens all the time in junk removal, shit happens. We go in people's houses and their businesses, and there's things that potentially we can screw up because it's part of the job. And the best thing you can do is get out in front of it. Get out in front of the story. Get out in front of the lead. Be honest with people and come up with a resolution. I've seen it so many times in junk removal, especially on the groups where it's like, oh, yeah, I screwed this up, and then the customer got pissed and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, what did you do to resolve it? What did you do to own it? And this doesn't have to be like this huge, well-thought plan. It's like, well, what can you do and start there? Most people will work with you on it, right? You got to be honest with them and yourself about what happened and what you can do about it. So, good lesson for me to learn too.
So, and that's so important. A lot of people are like, well, I got insurance. Well, good. You need insurance. That's for the big stuff. The small stuff.
100%.
You need to be able, and this is why you need to connect yourself, but the small stuff you need to be able to not just fix, but provide another solution for if you do mess up. I mean, you can probably tell me this, Andy. I'm not sure about you, Marco, because I don't know if you've been in attics, but You know how many guys that in my team have stepped through the ceiling and busted through sheetrock, right?
Yep.
That sucks. But the cool thing is, it's an easy fix if you know people. So all you gotta do is say, hey man, I just need someone to come and replace the sheetrock panel in a garage. One of my guys stepped through, and they're gonna laugh because they're like, yep, been there. And then they come out and fix it.
Yep.
But the problem is you have a lot of people who are like, well, I mean, we can come out there and try to fix it ourselves, and then they're gonna A, mess it up, or B, they're not gonna do it because they don't know how. And it's like, this is why you go to these network meetings. This is why you surround yourself with other assets for that reason. Now, obviously, a broken mug is a little different than punching a hole through a wall, but still same concept. If you could fix it yourself on your own time and show them, hey, look, I do care about your business, and I deeply apologize for offending you. If I did, if this, obviously you didn't know, but it goes a mile rather than a foot. It goes so far with that customer.
Well, no, you got to, your Rolodex, you got to have for your customers, right? You always have to have a mechanic on speed dial for your own guys. The other thing is, furniture repair. I had a furniture repair guy that saved my ass on a project. This lady lost her ever living mind on when this is back when we used to do moving. A furniture repair person. My dad thankfully puts in doors and windows for a living. So if I break out, a panel of a door, glass panel, man, we broke out a window one time because one of our guys leaned up against the window and shattered it, pulling a piano out of a house, or I can't remember what it was. Just stupid shit like that. Also, siding and gutter guy, because somehow we've taken out fucking siding and gutters on with our trailers in the past. Like, there's all these people, and yeah, to your point, Casey, unless you're a handyman or you've done it in the past, hire it out and pay it off, right? If 1 in 100 jobs goes south and you got to pay out, document what happened. Have some training around it so it doesn't happen again. The best thing you can do is how do you get to the other side of it as fast as possible? Like, hire someone to do it, pay them, and move on. If you try to dick around and do it yourself, it ain't going to work out well for them unless, again, you have it. Like, I can patch drywall. I've done it. I used to flip houses. I am not going to go patch drywall because I know if I call this guy, and a lot of painters, if you call painters, they'll patch it, they'll texture it, and they'll paint it for you right away. And what's funny about those guys is we had one time we fucked up this cabinet. The guy had to repaint the entire cabinet. It sucked. It was not a good bill. He ended up repainting the rest of their cabinets in their kitchen eventually, and he sent me a referral fee for it. Right? Because again, it's like when you go to networking events, it's about buying, not always selling.
Right. And I'll tell you, for everybody listening, a little piece of advice: whenever you do deal with something that went wrong on a job, always keep control of it. What I mean by that is, a lot of times they're going to be like, oh, well, I'll just find someone, then you can just pay me. Don't do that, because you lose control, and now it can be a little project that turns into a bigger project because you agree to pay their contractor who's already upcharging the job how they see fit, rather than going with a buddy or a good connection that you already have who's going to be like, yeah, man, I got you. Like a piece of drywall, hey, $150 gets it done. But if you go with someone you don't know and then they're in charge of it, it's like, hey, $300 easy. Always keep control of a project, even if it's a good job gone bad.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the difference between the simple answer versus the easy answer. Simple is you understand what needs to get done, you handle it. Easy is you punt it to somebody else, and when you lose control, this is exactly what you do. You lose control of the entire situation. You lose control of the budget. All of a sudden, you lose control of what damage you're responsible for. Everything spirals from there because you lost control.
Yep, 100%.
So, Jahmarqoe, 4 months into business. What is it? What are some things you've learned along the way? And then the second part of the question is going to be, what is it you want to know from people that have been hustling for years on end?
Okay, so what have I learned along the way?
Yeah.
I would say just the business aspect. Because like I said, I've already been cleaning, but just it's a different feeling when you actually you in charge, So we're like I'm buying stuff and I'm keeping receipts. It's just a different feeling, It's like I feel like a businessman, So that's like that's what I'll say. What I learned, and each and every day and week, and I'm just 1% each and every day. I'm just learning something new, and it's just I'm just going with the flow, and I'm just trying to continue to grow. But my question to both of you guys is, with you guys' business, at one point did you guys know that you were successful in business? Like, what do you guys define success?
And that's a good question, actually. I'm gonna go first, Andy. I realized I was successful in the business when I had those I was looking up to tell me how great of a job I did. I never saw it for myself. I always wanted more. I was everything I did, I was a perfectionist. So for me, I could have never been okay with what I could have always done something better, right? And it wasn't until later on, and mind you, a good role model for me was Andy, for instance. I mean, him and I talked a lot, but whenever he was talking about jobs, and we started realizing, like, these aren't just your starter jobs. These aren't just your starter numbers. These aren't numbers you just accidentally pull out of your ass. Like, you have to actually do something right to reach these milestones. And I wouldn't say I saw it. It was more of like, it was presented to me that I did a damn good job probably after our fifth year, because you got to look at what you're doing. What does success look like? Man, it's different for everybody. For me, I had so many people that trusted me and my company that would call me even today. I got an issue. Can you help me fix it? That's success to me, because people are calling me knowing you may not do this, but I know who you are and I trust your judgment. Can you hook it up? So for me, that was success. It wasn't dollars. Who gives a shit about money? It's about trust, I think.
Yeah, there's not this moment where I'm like, oh, I'm on the mountaintop and I've done the thing that is successful. It was jumping out into the pool and and by our second or third month of business, and be like, okay, I can hang with this. There was that moment, probably, I don't know, it was very early in our business, probably 2 months in, 3 months in, and so we started Green Up Solutions in February. We bought and we farted around, and I was finishing up college and starting to do a little bit. We really started our franchise business, our doing it full time June 1 for all intents and purposes. And it was about mid-August where I'm like, oh shit, okay, like this all makes sense to me. Like, I'm listening to other people in my peers, and like it's like shit that they were still struggling with. I'm like, no, that makes sense. And going to networking events and these things that I was intimidated by, I'm like, man, there ain't nothing to this, right? You show up, you can tell people what your business is about, you speak with a little bit of passion and enthusiasm, you shake hands and meet new people, you're good to hook, And now I am a numbers guy, right? So there was a numbers from a success standpoint, and it wasn't like, oh, once I hit this dollar amount, I made it. It was more when I realized I had more money than I'd ever seen before. And like our third month of business, we had an opportunity to buy a truck that was $23,000. And we didn't have no credit. There was no way we were going to get a loan for it, right? And I had assload of credit card debt. I had the confidence to be like, all right, Ike, fly down to Louisiana, pick up the truck, drive back. And in that moment, I remember the truck was 22.5. And I looked at the numbers. I looked how much money we had done the previous 3 months. Because I was tracking my KPIs very early. That's one thing I've done since day one. And I also kind of figured out how much money we were burning every week, right? And if we stayed on the trajectory, I told Ike, I'm like, hey, man, if we pay for this truck straight up, we're going to get it close on money, right? Like, we're going to dip. By the time we pay for the truck, it comes back. We pay some other bills. Money doesn't come in yet, right? Thinking now I know it's like cash flows. I didn't know the term cash flows back then. I was like, we're just going to run out of money. And so Isaac was like, hey, I got $3,500. It was literally the last safety net. I had put every dollar I had in. I'd already maxed out my credit cards. And my brother had $3,500 of his own money that was like our final safety net. He's like, I will put the money in if it means we go get the truck. I'm like, all right, bet. Like, we bought the cheapest airfare, no hotel. He flew down on Saturday morning, drove it back, and had it back in our lot by late Sunday night, and it was out banging jobs by Monday. So when it was all said and done, I remember I projected. I'm like, man, I don't think we can. Like, I know we're going to dip below what we had in our account at some point. So all of a sudden, we pull all this money out, and then we start paying some more bills, and things happen. And at our lowest point, we dipped down to $3,500 and like $17, $3,517, and we never. And then after that, we started making money. So it's like, if had he not put up that $3,500, we'd have had $17 in our checking account as we planned it out. So for me, again, it was about the fact that we were in a position to be like, oh yeah, buy the truck. Like all my life, I had, had like, loan or not loaners, but I had cheapy vehicles, shit vehicles. And then I bought a new car for the first time, and it was like, oh, this is cool, but then you financed it. I'd never been like, oh yeah, go buy a $20,000 truck. Like I never had that kind of money. So the fact that I could go buy it, and it wasn't like, oh, buy it so we can, drive on the weekends and go out fucking money. No, it was buy it because I need this to haul a trailer to go bang jobs. And it's our Dodge. It was a Dodge 1500. Later found out in the middle of a snowstorm it didn't have 4-wheel drive on it because apparently y'all got 4-wheel drive trucks, or y'all got trucks down south without 4-wheel drive. I didn't even know that was a thing. I thought every truck came 4-wheel drive, right?
No.
Yeah. And also 1500. Also 1500. That don't pull a dump trailer, right? Dump trailer pulls it. So, the purchase itself. Yeah, the purchase itself, terrible idea. The fact that I made the purchase was awesome. And to that end, my brother still drives that truck. So that was, June, or that was, August of 16. And that was success.
Which one was that?
That was the Dodge. The Dodge 1500. It's like a 2014 Dodge 1500. It was a franchisee that was going out of business, which obviously we know all about that. Franchisee's going out of business. So I bought his truck. Cool fucking dude. Standard classic why not to get into franchise conversation. And so we bought the truck from him, and we got him out of a loan on a vehicle that he couldn't afford to have because he failed within the franchise model. The franchise model failed him. I don't want to get too political this early in the day. Whatever. So I would say that was my moment of success. The fact that because I grew up poorish, right, broke. We weren't poor, we were broke. Like we couldn't afford to buy things. So the fact that I had the confidence to make a purchase based off of how well the business was doing, that was my moment of success. How do you define success? What is it you want to get? What life do you want to build with T&J Cleaning?
Freedom. I just don't.
Boom.
Yeah, that's freedom. That's not having to work a 9 to 5. Just being able to do what I want to do on my own time, and eventually I want to be able to not have to clean, have every I can be in Miami somewhere, and I have the crew up here and expand. So that's what I said, just freedom,
No,
so that's a great answer because that's I turned down a very reputable, awesome position working for a great company, and it was a great paying job, more money than I've ever been paid as a salary. I turned him down, and he asked me why, and I told him for freedom. And it's such a cliche, but it's true, man. I was like, look, I get it, and I appreciate the opportunity, but the fact that I know where I'm going to be if I work for you every day and every time, it bothers me. I have no deviation. If I want to just I don't feel like leaving the house at 6 a.m. today. I want to wake up at 8. I want to cook breakfast for my family. There's no one hounding me. Hey, you were supposed to be here 2 hours ago. So you can't beat that. There's nothing that replaces the freedom factor.
And it's funny how you say that because a couple months before I started my own cleaning company, I was a apprentice for plumbing. I was doing plumbing, and I had to make the decision do I want to keep getting told what to do, and do I want to keep waking up at 6 a.m. And I didn't mind. I've been waking up early my whole life, but it's just as a person, I function better with one that I'm in control. So You know, if somebody asks me would I rather make $50,000 a year on my own or make $100,000 a year working for somebody else being told what to do, I'll take $50,000 a year just to have my freedom.
Well, and that's what it is. People often in this world that have jobs, right? They work their job, they have the safety, the security, and then it's like, oh, I'm working for the weekend or I'm working for my 2 weeks of vacation. It's like, well, what do you get on that vacation that weekend? Oh, I got freedom. I can do whatever I want. And I'm like, man, I got that every day. That don't cost nothing, right? I think about in the movie Office Space, be like, oh, if I had $1 million, you can sit around and do nothing all day. He's like, man, my cousin's broke.
Two chicks at the same time.
Yeah. But he's like, but he's like, my cousin's broke as shit. He said, you don't do shit all day. And it's like, that's how I look at it. Like my dad had a job for a while when we were, right when I think my brother Isaac was born around 93. My dad went and got himself a job, and it didn't last. I'll ask him. It didn't last but like 3-4 months max. He's a non-job working individual, right? Like it wasn't a good fit for him, and vice versa. And I remember it's like he came home, and my mom and my dad and I talked about this story a couple weeks ago. It's like my mom wanted so bad for my dad to have a title and a work truck and a business card, and like, you know, like he had an offer with Paul Davis Systems years ago to be a project manager and make 6 figures and like have stability. And it's like, God, how pathetic would that have been for him? Because he would have hated it. For some people, it works, but for my dad, you put in a dog in a cage, and that's he doesn't want to sacrifice that. He doesn't want to sacrifice his freedom, right, for your money, and that's what you're doing when you work in a job. And for a lot of people, that works. I look back though, up until the Industrial Revolution, 130, 140 years ago, as humans, we didn't punch clocks. The time clock wasn't even invented until like the 1890s because people worked and they did their craft and then they went home, or you know, they chose what their craft was. You know, you had all these small businesses, like, or you had people that were farmers and raised their own, you know, food and livestock and sold the excess, and that's how they paid for their other bills. It's like people are much more entrepreneurial than what they've now been conditioned to do. And I go back to the school system, right? 130, 140 years of school system getting people to be followers. And it's like, there's absolutely a good reason to learn to be a good follower because it allows you to be a good leader. And we also have to encourage kids to be entrepreneurs. That's why I love learning about multi-generational businesses like yours. It's like you got one side of you telling you got to, you know, toe the line and follow the rules, and the other side of you is like, well, this is how the hustle really works. And I've done it. I worked corporate America. I worked for small businesses. Hell, I'm still in the Army, right? And you know, talk about an organization that, you know, dress right, dress. That's how it is. And I love what I do in the Army. I don't love it enough to do it every day, all day. I don't love it enough to give up the opportunities that I have had afforded to me because I chose to start a business. And a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to get into business, I'm going to make all this money. God bless. If you're in it for the money, go get a job. There's plenty of money working a job. You got to be in business because you love freedom more than you love stability. Right. And that's what it comes down to. And you got to love what you do.
Well, yeah.
I mean, listen.
I think the biggest thing also is like, well, you're giving him opportunity by using his business, right? Like you're not giving him a handout. You're like, dude, I'll hire you. I'll try you out. And he like you're using his business to fix a problem for you, right? And in turn, 100%. It's like, hey, I'm also going to help you get more business by being on this podcast. Whether it works or not, it's all about opportunities, recognizing them and going after those opportunities.
Well, because most Mondays, so Mondays is when I do all my podcasts, and like I forget every Monday that when I go downstairs, he's down there, you know, cleaning and shit. And I'm always, all right, what's up, man? Then I go to the gym or wherever I go after that, you know. And it's like we just have a quick conversation. And it's like, again, I met him at a networking event. Most people at networking events are there, you know, attempting to sell to people. It's like I go to networking events looking to buy. I'm looking to solve problems. Sometimes my problem is I don't have enough sales. Sometimes my problem is my damn building's dirty and my guys, I got 15, 17 guys in our team. They're a bunch of filthy, nasty dudes that don't clean up after themselves, right? And getting them to clean up after themselves has not been fruitful. And my mom don't stop by enough anymore to keep the building clean, right? Like mama's boy in that regard. Like she's been keeping it clean and she gone. So now I got to adult it, you know? And I had a cleaner. Actually, I had a cleaner before, after my mom left. I had a cleaner and she tore her rotator cuff or something. I don't know. She got hurt. She gone. So it's like, And I sure as hell, like that old adage, not to sound bougie, but it's like, what would I rather do? It's like, well, I'd rather book a couple more jobs every week and have the money to afford a cleaner than, sweep and mop the floors my damn self. And I also don't want to live in filth, right? Like, we clean people's houses out for a living. We gotta have a maintain order and discipline and cleanliness in our building, because that sets the expectation for how we're going to leave our customers' businesses, buildings and houses when we leave them. My soapbox here. I'll drop my Lego. I was sitting here with a Lego. I got like fidget spinners and stuff. I don't even know where this Lego piece came from. My daughter probably left it in the office here. So what is? Well, actually, you touched on it, but the idea of this future of having crews going out there and running. What are you doing now to communicate with your customers and your employees as far as operations?
I'm cold calling, like I'm calling. Like, for example, last week. So every Thursday, because part-time from this, I'm a personal trainer from cleaning. So every Thursday is the day to myself. Just I focus on the business. And someone told me to just call all residential. What is the home for like older people, like
senior living facilities,
senior living.
Yeah. So I went on Google on my laptop and I searched that up, and I called about 20 people, and now I got a walkthrough scheduled this week, so I do that, or I go like to offices and different commercial businesses, and I just tell them about the business and see how can I help them with cleaning it. So that's how I'm getting my clientele. I'm not really, I don't have like a what it's called, like a lead generator.
Yeah.
I go out myself. Eventually I will do that, but right now I'm just doing it myself. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. A lot of times when it comes to marketing,
go ahead.
Go ahead. All right, go ahead, Case. I'll let you lead. This is your avenue.
Well, so it's funny you say you don't have a lead generator, but you're the biggest lead generator, because the cool thing I found with owning a business, especially something as personal as cleaning out or cleaning for someone, even if it's for another business, you, the owner, get to talk to them. And if your clients, in your case, you're more business to business. I mean, so now you can go talk to these business owners as a business owner, right? Mm-hmm. And now you have that connection. You have that, what do you call it? That similarity, the relevancy that you can show up and say, hey, this is what I do. How can I help you? And how can I make your job easier for you? This, this, that, and the other. But like you said, cold calling, the biggest failure in small business are people not knowing how to hear the word no. They're afraid of it. They think if someone says no, they're rejecting them and their business. And now they're like, oh, I'm going to fail. The problem is no is the shortest word that you can think of. And it's like, who cares if they say no? Go until you get a yes. Right. And there's that saying, right? Every no is a step closer to a yes. So chip away, get the no's out of the way. I always try to sell the no. I always try to sell a no, keep me on the phone for seconds. Unless you're going to tell me yes, then we can talk longer, right? But I'd rather you get straight to the point. Hey, no, I'm not interested. Awesome. Have a great day. Next. In the Army, we call it next man. That's how they ship you through everything. Next man. Like, they don't give a shit. You get shots. They hit you hard. Next. Hard. Next. Same thing with the nose, man.
No, I like that. Well, and also no is a complete sentence. When someone says no, they're like, all right, cool. Right? And now in my head, it's not right now. What I've seen, one of the issues I've seen is people are told no, and then they keep selling. It's like, no, they said no. And as soon as you're like, all right, cool, when's a good time to follow up with you? Right? That might be like, hit me up in 90 days. I might be interested then. All right, cool. 90 days, I'm going to hit you up. And now you said, right, so you talk about lead gen. That's your lead gen. You walk out of there, you put that into some system, whether it's pen and paper, Excel spreadsheet, fucking fancy CRM. Put it somewhere, because ultimately your lead gen is the process, right? Where that's the strategic process, right? of nurturing individuals to eventually become customers. How you perform it is matters and relevant to you, right? And again, I say you automate as much as you can, right? When you're talking about your business and life in general, right? When right now you have more time than money. Eventually, you're going to have more money than time. That's what happens with a lot of business owners, right? If your goal is to be on the beach in Miami, what's that?
You keep pushing to flip it again.
Correct. Well, yeah, correct. Then you want to correct. Then you flip it again, where you again have more time than money again because you're not doing all the things, right? I learned this recently. Travis Johnson, he's going to be a guest here on the Trash Talk Business Podcast here coming up pretty soon. He taught me something last week, which was when it comes to non-priority things, right, in life or in business, you got to delegate, automate, or eliminate. And so for you right now with your lead gen, you got to find a way to delegate, not really delegate yet, because like Casey said, you are the guy. You got to find ways to automate some of that. Like, yeah, at first it's going to Google Maps and start cold calling, right? And figure out ways to automate that, whether it's going to be a system or a process. We use Jobber for everything within our business. So with Jobber, once I put somebody in as a request, I got text messages that drop them in, email follow-ups on the quote, right? And it does all that nurturing for you. You only have to build it one time. And then from there, we can also have, when it comes to delegate, our office person, our ops manager, they reach out, 7, 14, 21 days because it's built in the automation of Jobber, and then the delegation of Jobber reminds them to do it. So for someone like you, I can't stress enough, ops software early in adapt it in your business, because it's the way you're going to communicate internally with your team and externally with your clients. And when you do that, it's going to free up a lot of your time and eventually make your business repeatable. Right? The challenge is we see all these guys, especially in junk removal, they're banging jobs 2-3 years, chucking the truck. Maybe they get a second truck. Everything goes through them and their personal cell phone. And then they're like, oh, I want to take a vacation. It's like, cool. What have you automated? Nothing. What have you delegated? Nothing. Man, you're only 4 months in. Now is the time for you to start automating.
Okay.
We were 9 months into our business before we got on board with Jobber, and it took months for us to finally adapt to it because our guys were still doing things the way that they had been doing. And for 9 months, it wasn't like years on end. Now that we have, that was 6 years ago we put Jobber in place. Since we've had Jobber in place, it's like all the poor ways of doing things aren't even on board. So you've seen our board, right? Obviously you're in our building. He's actually down in the conference room right now. Getting a system like that in place is going to free you up. And then you can also use it for your cold calling and your prospecting, because you can put all the reminders in there to follow up with people 90 days later. Be like, hey, I talked to you 90 days ago. Are you in need of cleaning services now? Yes or no? They already know what you do. And it's a quick yes or no. Like Casey said, get to the no. When people say no to me, I'm like, all right, cool. That gets me closer to the next yes. It is a numbers game. You're going to land 75, 80% of your quotes. So it's like, cool. Every time you get someone that says no to a quote, that means I got 4 more coming that are going to say yes to. So let me get to that no as fast as possible. That's it.
Well, also, so we started with, I forgot, some free app that helps us schedule things.
Wasn't Timetree,
the problem was we weren't retaining. No, it was like Hub or something.
That's what
the biggest problem was it wasn't retaining information.
Nope.
It was only giving us a different schedule. So if I was going to just use a scheduling app, I'd be like, well, why don't just use Google Calendar?
Yep.
And the cool thing about Google Calendar is any email address that's even in the calendar, it gets saved automatically to Google. So it was already better than what we were using. So when there's a CRM, I think it's called I have to look it up. It's something crazy. It was like $5 a month, something stupid. And all it did was track your phone calls and email addresses that you put in there.
Yep.
Right. And then it puts them on a list. You connect it to whatever email address. And let's say springtime's happening right now. Like we're in the middle of the huge spring jump. Well, that was a perfect time to start doing a spring cleaning, whatever campaign.
Yeah.
And you click A through L or whatever letters, and it sends all those emails to those people. and it's very affordable. Now, obviously, you get into bigger programs like Jobber isn't just CRM; it is an entire operation system, which is great. But I don't know, what the bottom line is on that one. I don't know the cheapest price. I will say this: we started with the cheapest price, and I mean, within 6 to 8 months, we were already upgrading.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things. Get started now, and in about a year, you're gonna be like, "What's your top package?" Like, fuck it, I want it all.
Yep. Well, that's the key. You build a business for where you want to be tomorrow, right? Not where you're at today. And when you do that, you grow into your business. No, and there's also sometimes I've taken, or hell, I had 10 locations across the country at one point. Sometimes you find out where the line is by crossing over the damn line, right? And that's that's the other thing. It's like you don't know. You got to take those chances. Hell, Casey didn't know shit about nothing with first time he ripped down a house. Right, or that driveway. We always go back to that driveway you lost.
Driveway,
on.
golly.
It's like but now you know where the line was. It's like you got to be willing to lose every now and then. Now you're getting the commercial real estate now, Casey. How many times you looked at a building that was perfect on paper, and you go walk and you're like, absolutely not. You got a better idea where the line is.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing is like if you're not learning, you're dying. You know how people say if you're not growing, you're dying? Well, in order to grow, you got to learn. And if you're not learning what's best for your business and you're not trying to stay 2 or 3 steps ahead of your own business, then it stops with you. As in, if you're not learning or growing in your company, in your business, the second you stop, your business stops. Mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever.
Yep.
So if you're not thinking years ahead, who else is? Because no offense to the guys you have employed, they're probably not thinking about your business the next 2-3 years from now.
No, they're thinking about today.
Right. Unfortunately, we're in that industry where our employees, for the most part, are very transactional, very in the now. And next week, if they get an offer for $1 extra an hour, the cool thing is they'll tell you. The bad thing is you don't know when they'll tell you. They'll tell you the day of or a week before, but the 2-week notices are gone.
Oh, yeah.
But the best thing you can do is look out for your business. Not just now. I never think about the now when it comes to business. I don't give a shit. Today is a loss. No matter how you look at it, right now is done. Look at 6 months, a year, 2 years. Where do you want to be? And then backwards plan. How do you get there? What do you need to do differently? If you have someone good doing something great, could you find someone better to do something great? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So what's
a lot
next
of people
for
don't
you?
want to replace people because they're emotionally involved with them as well.
Yeah, let's hold it. I'll say the thing I've done the most in business that looking back at, I need to, or looking forward, I need to be conscious of and do less of. It is holding on to people too long, right? That old hire slow, fire fast. I've always done the opposite way. I've always hired fast and fired slow.
And it's hard.
Yeah, you're very rarely are you going to have an employee at year 3 or 4 that was with you year 1, because you hire for where you were at year
very
1
rare.
and year 2. Hell, Casey, you had at one point it was Casey, your stepbrother, your mom, and your stepdad. Like that was the team, and it's like,
dude, and my wife. And my wife even worked with us.
Yeah.
She was doing the office stuff. So I mean, but and then the next thing you know it, like my stepbrother left, then my wife left, then my parents got out, and the next thing you know, I'm like, okay, well, who can I rely on? Well, shit. This guy, he's been with me for 2 or 3 years. He's about to leave because he's screwing me over, starting his own thing. Now I got to start all over, and we're 3.5 years in. So you always have to have your bullpen ready to run. And that's the thing. It's hard to hear it. But, yeah, you got to hire slow, fire fast. Always be hiring.
Yeah. Build your bench. Casey talks about that. Build your bench. I put money on it that there's someone out there unemployed right now that's better than your worst guy.
Right.
And so always look to see who you can backfill on your bench.
Mm-hmm. Go down the line. If you have, let's say, 2 people or 5 people, do you want 10 more just like them? If your answer is no, why do you have 1?
Yeah.
And that goes for customers too. Mm-hmm. Everybody has a shit customer that you feel like you're stuck with, Man,
we fired this one customer years ago. She threw a fit. And then like a month ago, she called and we booked a job. I wasn't, we we used to have it right on her notes, right on Jobber, saying she was blacklisted. And I don't know, yeah, there was that good of a relationship. Anyhow, I don't know how we ended up booking a job for her. Booked a job for her. I even told my boss, kind of boss, president of our company, Ken, like, hey man, this is probably not going to end well. He's like, oh come on, like, it's a real basic job. Shit you not. We get an email the next day saying we broke the door. And I was like, well, how did we break? I asked the team, hey, what happened with the door? He's like, that door was falling off the hinges because it was a shit rental property. So, hey, that door was falling off the hinges where we got there. It was no worse than when we left. And then she goes, oh, you broke the door. So, all right, well, what did we do? Like, what did we break on the door? Well, it's not closing right. I said, well, was it closed right when y'all got there? She's like, well, yeah, okay. I don't understand what we're talking about here, right? Like, we started the show talking about, how to resolve problems. I can also tell you, if you keep working with the same people or you keep losing money, and this is what I told her years ago, hey, obviously we're not a good fit for you. If you complain every time we do a job and try to get us to discount our prices significantly, there's got to be a better company out there for you. So, lo and behold.
And no offense, but we got to roll. Like, sorry, I'd rather go someone else I don't know.
Yeah. And when I emailed her back saying, hey, what's going on with the door? I followed up with her a week later, crickets. So it's like, no, your tenant broke the damn door. They're trying to blame us. And I just asked, I also, what can we do for you, right? What is it you want us to do? And nothing. So, yeah, learning to say no to employees and customers, that's eventually where you want to be. Again, put your power back in gives you back the control and power that, the whole reason you started business in the first place was to have the freedom and the power and the control of your destiny. And that's what you're, forever striving for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. What else? What other questions you got for us? I'm feeling good about where this has gone today. I've learned a few things.
Yeah.
So, like, was it ever a point where you guys felt like you hit the wall with your business? Like
every week.
Every week. I was about to say every day. Every day would be a stretch. Yeah. Monthly, yeah.
Every week, man.
Every week. I'll tell you what. I used to have this conversation with my brother Isaac on Sundays. So Saturdays we would bang jobs and kind of clean the yard up. Sundays we would scrap. And it'd be like 4:00 on Sunday. I'm like, man, we only got work through like Tuesday this week. Maybe a couple jobs on Wednesday. Like, I don't know how the hell we're going to handle it. And then by Monday night, right? Because Monday's always a good day on the phones and good. We'd have 4 or 5 estimates, whatever it was on Monday. By Monday night, I'm like, man, we got to hire more people this week because we don't have any more time slots, right? Because we had like 2-3 trucks at the time. Every week, I'm like, the hell am I doing? And after 14 years of doing it, I can tell you, I had that conversation this morning, Monday morning, with our president. Like, man, we got to land some of these estimates today because our week ain't looking great. And now I'm looking at the calendar. Yeah. I'm like, okay, like we added 5-6 more estimates. Like, yep. Now it all is like, yep, boom, 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 boom. Like, yep, this all makes sense.
So
that's what it takes.
I'll tell you another thing. Here's what thinking in the future really comes in. There was times, man, where I was like, fuck this, I'm out. I'm quitting. I don't want to do this any longer, whatever. But then I would stop and think, in 6 months from now, what do I want to be doing? In a year from now, what do I want to be doing? Who am I going to be listening to, right? Am I going to have a boss? Am I going to have a purpose? That was the other thing is, as guys, as men, and this isn't trying to get too deep real quick, just to touch on this, but as men, we already have a provider type mentality. It's ingrained into us. That's what I feel. Yep. And the one thing I can tell you is there's nothing that's more dehumanizing. Dehumanizing? Is that what I'm trying to say?
I don't know what you're
dehumanizing.
I'm going to let you land the ship, and then I'm going to tell you if you're right.
Okay. There's nothing more dehumanizing than providing for your family only when someone else allows you to do so.
Yeah.
So if I have the control and I have the option to say, you know what, I'm going to do whatever I want to do that I feel is best for my family, I'm going to do it. So on those times where I was just like, man, today sucked. We didn't make any money. It was hot as hell, 110 degrees. I'm done. Fuck this. Mom, love you, but this ain't for me. She'd be like, all right, we'll talk later. It's because she knew all I needed was some time to calm down because I'm going to start thinking about the future.
Yep.
And I'd be like, hey, so earlier, when I was like, telling you to fuck off and I love you and stuff? Yeah, sorry. She's like, no, I know, you're good. And then we'd be fine. We fought all the time. But I also understood. I let my emotions sometimes get in the way of the business. And that's when I was like, oh, I hit a wall. Dude, you're not just hitting a wall, man. You're hitting checks. It's just a checkpoint, man. Stop, reassess, keep looking forward.
The old OODA loop. Observe where you at, orient, put yourself in a position to be successful, decide what am I going to do about it, act, follow through. That's the challenge. You're gonna hit walls. You're gonna have checkpoints. You got to have check-ins with yourself. Get a business mentor. Get a business coach. Get somebody that's not in your business, in your life, in your family that you can reach out to keep you off the ledge. Because almost every
you
day
can be like Trump or Reagan. Do you want to put them up or you want to knock them down?
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. I can't even do. I was going to do a Trump impression, but it'd be so terrible. I'm not even going to pretend to do a Trump. Casey loves Trump. Huge fan. Big fan.
No, I don't love him. I love that he just he don't give a fuck, man. Like he is like, I don't give a shit. America, that's all I got to say.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, you hurt my feelings. Fuck you then, and your feelings.
Yeah.
It's like,
catch me on Twitter. All right. Well, there we go. Now we're. See, this is why I was able to land the ship like 3 months ago, because right around 51, 52 minute mark, Casey, the Texas Heat gets to Casey, and he says some political garbage, and that's how we get here.
Nah.
All right, let's hit it. Let's go around the world real quick. Casey, then Marco, then me. Top takeaway from today in our conversation.
Keep looking forward. Top takeaway. Always look forward. If you're in the driver's seat right now and you just started, then that's awesome. It's a perfect place to be because you have nothing but forward to look at. If you've been in for a year or two, maybe you have days where you don't know what you really want to do. Maybe you question your business sometimes. That's fine. Look into the future. If you've been doing this for 5-10 years, maybe you're ready to move on. Look into the future. Always look forward, because I promise you, the last thing you want to do is get to that point where you're like, oh, what could have been, right? If I would have done this. I don't like living in regret. Neither should you. So my advice is always look forward.
All right. Jahmarqoe, top takeaway.
All right. I would say surround yourself around people who you can learn from. Because with this, I learned so much from you guys in this short amount of time. Like, I wasn't even thinking about automating my business, and I was going by the day, and now I know what to think, plan for the future. Now I'm thinking 6 months ahead now. So I would say surround yourself around people who you can learn from.
Yeah, that's the key, man. That's normal.
Yeah. Shit, I'm gonna say what you said, right? At some point, you forget about the walls you hit because you're just so used to running through them. And for me, it's about intentional check-ins. Intentionally be like, okay, where am I at? Am I doing the things that I set out to do? And if not, what do I need to do about it? Because your first couple of years in business, them fucking walls come at you fast, Jack. Right? You're constantly hitting them. Uh-huh. And over time, it's like you learn to navigate those walls and that self-doubt. And then I've also got to the point where it's like loosey-goosey. You're on autopilot, right? And that complacency bug kicks in. So for me, it was good to hear about the walls you're hitting, because now it's an opportunity for me to be like, okay, hold on, Andy. Like, are we really on track? Yes or no? It's one thing, I check KPIs, have conversations with my guys. Also, me as a business owner, am I where I want to be? Is this the definition of success that I've had? Where I gotten fat and lazy the last year or so? I know, because I went to had my physical last week for the VA. Turns out there's good cholesterol and bad cholesterol, and I have a lot of bad cholesterol and not enough good cholesterol. Bullshit. Also, I'm the fattest I've ever been. Tip the scales heavier than I've ever. I put on my winter weight. My fighting weight's 205. Used to be 197, but them days are behind me. So my fighting weight's 205. I'm about 20 plus beyond that. So for me, it's like I'm spending way too much time sitting in my office behind a mic and I enjoy being out there scrapping, bullshitting with the guys, hopping on the forklift. I mean, it helps that it's 70 degrees out today, no doubt. That's where I need to be, right? And to have those check-ins with myself. Am I living the life I want to live right now? Yes or no? And if it's no, what do I need to do different? And if it's yes, what do I do? What do I need to continue to do? And if I'm not sure, what do I need to start doing? So that's my takeaway. Jahmarqoe, let's talk Jobber. I can tell you all about it, how to automate the business. That's too simple of a thing to do. And with anybody out there in the trash talk business world, we're here to celebrate entrepreneurship. We're here to celebrate the recycling industry, right? These blue collar industries that we love serving people in, and we love sharing the knowledge and education. Waste 360. By the time this episode airs, we're already done. We're already been at Waste 360.
Okay. For all y'all that we met, just want to say it was great meeting y'all at the conference. There, I'll go ahead and say it. Get in front of that shit.
Get in front of that shit. Waste 360 New Orleans this year. Maybe I'll be back in Vegas next year. We'll know. We'll find out, and we'll start promoting Waste 360 soon. I'll promote Jobber because I love it. And to your point, nobody thought about automating your business. That's the way you automate. Jobber's the key. We got another episode coming up next week. We're doing a twofer episode. We're doing 2 episodes in one day, so we don't get behind our release schedule. As always, I'm Andy. He's Casey. Jahmarqoe, thanks for joining us on another episode of the Trash Talk Business Podcast. We will see you next week.